Have you heard this song? If you're anything like me, you would have grown up listening to that song. It's one of the best of the generation. It is older than me, though, I'd like to point that out. But I felt it was perfect timed for this week's episode. Hi there, you're listening to Content About Content. It's the podcast designed to help you feel more confident and content about your content creation, content management, content marketing, content everything. I'm your host, Jen Robson, and I'm the founding director of Engage Agency. We're a content agency based here in New South Wales, Australia. But this week, we are talking AI and asking the question, will AI kill the copywriter, just like video killed the radio star? So let's get to it, shall we? Okay, so even if you have been living under a rock, chances are you've heard about all of the AI tools hitting the market now. And there's a lot of commentary going on about it because most of these tools, or a lot of them, are focusing on copywriting, they're focusing on content creation, they're focusing on content marketing, SEO, and other things like that. In fact, there are quite a few sites popping up that are catalogs of different AI tools to help you find them. And you can click around the different options, but the writing themes or the writing categories of AI tools are by far the most populated. So it would be stupid to be ignoring what AI is going to be doing to the industry in the coming years or even in the coming months. We've seen AI writing tools being advertised, starting to be used throughout small business in particular over the last few years. And a lot of these tools, they're not fabulous. They're not reliable. They're not producing great content. And the content that they are producing is not going to be getting you very far at all. But they are producing content in a world where really we need a lot more content. And it saves a lot of time. You wouldn't want to throw that copy up on your site without doing some really serious editing and reviewing of the stuff first to make sure it is quality. And if you don't have the budget to hire a writer, then maybe that's a good way to go. But for the most part, AI writing tools and AI systems are just not able to take the place of a human at this stage. So let's have a talk about what it is out there at the moment. So the majority of AI writing tools right now, the ones I've come across at least, will, if they're the more full systems, they'll start by asking you what it is that you want to write and then what it is you want to write about. So some of them will then say, okay, so you want to write a blog post about XYZ. Here's your heading and your subheadings. Are these covering everything you need? You say yes or you say no, you edit, you add, you ask it to look again, and then you finally come out with an outline. You then click a button and ask it to write the copy that goes in those outlines. The problem I found with this is that it doesn't have the logic or the knowledge, the human knowledge, to recognize that it was basically repeating itself. So a couple of the articles that I got it to test writing for it, I never hit publish on them. Don't worry, you won't ever find them. But a couple of them that I found were basically 2,000 words of the same statement over and over again in different ways. If you had absolutely no idea what I was talking about in that article, then you might think it was all new. The reality was it said one thing repetitively in just different ways, and it didn't provide any value whatsoever to the end user. Good if I was only looking at putting words on the site, not good for any good reason. So that is a big problem with a lot of the tools at the moment. So you can't really go, okay, you know everything, just give me what you got and I'll trust it. There is a lot of need for humans to go in there and to check for accuracy, make sure it makes logical sense, and also fix the copy, because a lot of these tools, they don't sound like humans. They're very stilted, they're very repetitive. But then we start with GPT, in particular ChatGPT. And since the release of ChatGPT or GPT-4 last month, there's been a lot more question about where this is going. So I would like to say, don't panic yet. Don't start making huge changes to the way you're doing things just yet. but do start to look at the kind of things that these systems can do. The benefit of GPT is that it is looking at human copy. So it's looking at the ways that people write and people interact, and it's drawing on context to make something more intuitive, interactive, and useful. What does that mean, basically? It means that you can write copy through this ChatGPT, and it does sound like it's more human. It does start to sound like a person wrote this stuff, because it is, analyzing data, it's analyzing interests, and it's also able to take prompts like write in this tone, or write in an excitable tone, write in a more relaxed tone, and adjust the copy accordingly. So that's a lot smarter than a lot of the tools that we've seen to date. And that's a lot more useful, but it still doesn't replace the human. The thing is that even if you get these tools writing it, you can feed it and teach it, and it will get better. And I've seen it do that in my little tests with ChatGPT. I've actually become a GPT fan in the last couple of weeks as I've been testing and looking at how these things go. But there are still a lot of problems with it. But coming back to the idea of AI-driven copy, so there's a few major issues in there. Number one is the quality. There was some questions that came out after Google released their official stance on using AI to write content. So they released that, I think it was February, March. It wasn't that long ago. And it basically said that Google is going to be absolutely fine with AI written copy, as long as the copy is not written to manipulate search results, and so long as the content is useful, helpful, and of quality. They don't care if a machine wrote it or not. And yes, there is a way to tell if a machine has written copy. There are new AI tools that you can run AI copy through to see if it's AI or not. So, we can actually identify whether AI copy is real. So there were some questions, and John Mueller, who is over at Google, did come over and say, look, when someone asked, I've got this tweet from the 29th of March saying, and from someone called Sumit Gupta, he said, should we use ChatGPT from now on for publishing content on our website? It's giving 80% unique content. So John Mueller came back and said, it's like food with only 20% toxic chemicals. Sounds tasty. So you need to think about how you're using these AI tools. Google's not going to penalize you for it, but is the content actually quality? Is it actually helpful? Is it actually useful? So before you jump in and go, hey, Google says it's cool, think about the quality that's coming out of there. As well as that, we also have the fact that not even OpenAI, who is the company that runs GPT, is trusting all AI written copy. Of course they're not. They're now going through working out how to tag copy on all over the internet, content all over the internet, to identify whether or not it was written by an AI or by a human. And there's a really strong and good reason for them to do that. They're basically working out what information that they can draw on in their next round of content pull-in. Because if you look at GPT-4 now, it only has data up until September 2021. So there's a cutoff that it needs to have to pull in the latest, for now anyway, pull in the latest information from the internet, does its scouring, then they go through testing, then they go, yes, okay, it's good enough, we'll release it to beta or to public. So there's that cutoff date that they have, but they need to make sure all of the content that falls into that cutoff date that the machine is learning from is reliable. Because right now, it's not. Right now, you already have humans writing crap all over the internet, but you can't then trust copy that was written by an AI that an AI then is learning from. You end up in this infinite loop of less and less reliable copy, less and less reliable facts. Well, not facts at all, stories. So yes, you can use AI to write your copy, but there's going to be a point where you need to think about what the impact is for your whole site. And yes, Google's not going to penalize you for that specific reason, but they are going to penalize you in the end because of ways that you're using it and the fact that you're not providing the right value. That said, AI is going to become incredibly important for writers of the future, even right now. Not in writing the copy, and that should never be done. My own personal opinion. It shouldn't be done. You shouldn't rely on an AI machine to write your copy. But things like research, and big disclaimer, I'll go into that in a second, but GPT and other AI tools are going to be able to make doing your research far quicker. They're going to be able to make other things about your life far quicker. You go into GPT now and you ask it to create you a content calendar, and so long as you give it the right prompts and the right information, it's going to create something that's pretty decent, and you can ask it, then give it some more information to refine it, but it comes out with stuff that you can actually use. You then need to write the copy yourself, but it is giving you a strong starting point that takes away a lot of the time and effort that is part of the content piece and part of the writer's job. One thing I got incredibly excited about, a little bit too excited about, and unfortunately am now incredibly disappointed about, is the research capabilities. So one thing I absolutely hate doing is when I'm writing an article or a report, looking for reliable data points, statistics, surveys, reports that I can reference from other companies that have done the surveys, consulting agencies, and that kind of thing. So I want to know what percentage of people do this or that or the other. And finding that information can be a real rabbit hole. Firstly, it's finding the right stat. Obviously, you don't want to be manipulating your story. So how do you find a stat that supports without manipulation, that is not something that is just plucked from someone's head to make something sound good? But you want to be thinking about their methodology, the credibility of the people who did the research, how many people were involved in the research, and the sample size, and all of these kinds of things. That's a really frustrating part of my work because a lot of things end up behind paywalls. And unless I'm getting a lot of data and a lot of stats from one place all the time, I don't really want to be paying $2,000 a month for a site that publishes these reports. Just not interested in paying that. So the idea of going to ChatGPT and saying, find me a stat around this topic published in this time period was so awesome. And I played around with it a little bit. I couldn't use the things that it came out with. At first, I couldn't use it because the data is only relevant to September 2021. And I needed more relevant things than that. The topic I was looking at in particular is very timely. I needed data from this year, last 3 months max. So I couldn't use those pieces anyway, but I decided to dig a little to see how it would go. So I hit up ChatGPT 3 and said, find me these stat points around this topic. And it did. And it was great. Fabulous numbers, exactly the statements that I wanted, saying exactly the kind of things that I wanted it to say. I could use those points perfectly. Even gave me links to the research. I said to it, okay, you've got some competitors and my client on there. Take out any companies that are in this space. Look specifically at companies in this space instead, and anything that my client has published before. What do you know? It did that. And I was really impressed. I was like, oh my God, I've just saved myself 2 weeks of work. This is going to be a game changer. But you know what? I clicked the links. The links are all 404s. I did Google. I couldn't find any of these reports that they talked about. Doesn't exist. GPT had somehow made up these stats. No idea how that worked. It's got a disclaimer at the bottom saying, you may need to, there's no guarantee of accuracy, do your research, that kind of thing. So you can't blame OpenAI for that. But it's such a disappointment. I then went into ChatGPT with a GPT-4 model and tried the same thing. And this time it did not give me exact numbers. It didn't give me URLs. It said things like, from a Forrester study in 2021. I was like, which Forrester study? It couldn't tell me. I was like, I'm not going to tell you that. I can't tell you that. Can you give me a link? No, can't do that. So again, I hit up Google. I was like, Forrester study says this, blah, blah, blah. Does not exist. So huge disappointment. But I think that that's going to be one of the things that comes into that world of I am AI very, very soon. That ability to provide research and fast track your access to published research, published statistics, published reports, and looking at the methodology and ensuring that it meets your requirements, and actually saying to GPT or any other AI tool out there, I want stats around this topic with research done in this year with at least, 5,000 participants in the study from these countries. And then hopefully, I think we will get to that point where we're able to rely on that data and use that to build out. Of course, we can't then say, okay, write the article and just trust it. We still need to double check everything and revise everything and rewrite everything. And if we do want to make sure that our copy is then considered for future GPT releases or AI releases, for future referencing and resourcing from AI tools, which is how people are going to start searching for things, then we need to make sure that that copy is actually unique and not AI written. Because while now Google's not penalizing you for having AI written copy, however, so long as you meet the quality requirements, AI tools are going to. And if the future is moving away from old-fashioned searches and into conversational AI for finding information and finding product data and finding the new brands that you want to work with, if that's the way of the future, and I think it's likely to be, then we need to make sure that those tools are going to actually pay attention to the stuff that we create. And if we're using those tools to create the stuff that we publish, then they're not going to pay attention and we're going to lose all of our audience. So will AI kill the copywriter? Absolutely not. AI will make the copywriter's job much easier, but it'll also make the copywriter's job and the content marketer's job and the content designer's job and all of our jobs. And it'll make them even more important, because if you're relying on these tools and only these tools, then you're going to become irrelevant to these tools. I hope that made sense. Anyway, do you want to listen to more from the Babbles?
I heard you on the wireless back in 52.
Thanks again, and as always, for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know this is very topical at the moment, so I'd love to hear how you're feeling about AI in writing in particular, or anything content really. Hit us up, leave us a review, let us know what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Just head to lovethepodcast.com/content about content. I'll speak to you soon.